He laughed at her apron, mocked her job. The very next day, she walked down the aisle as the wife of the richest Korean mafia boss. The coffee cup hit the wall 6 inches from Nessa Brooks's head, exploding in a spray of ceramic and cold brew. She didn't flinch. 3 years as a waitress at Ruby's Diner had taught her to see violence coming before it landed. What made her freeze wasn't the cup, it was the face of the man who'd thrown it, Marcus, her ex-boyfriend. Sitting in her section with his new girlfriend, a woman in a cream Chanel suit who looked like she'd never worked a day in her life. "This is what I escaped," Marcus said loudly, his voice carrying across the diner's morning crowd. He wasn't talking to Nessa. He was performing for his girlfriend, for the other customers, for anyone who would listen. 3 years with a woman who serves eggs for a living, who smells like grease and coffee, who has no ambition beyond the next tip. His girlfriend laughed, a tinkling, cultured sound that made Nessa's skin crawl. Nessa's hands shook as she bent to clean up the broken cup, her purple uniform dress riding up slightly. She'd worn this uniform with pride for 3 years, paid her rent with tips earned in it, helped her mother with medical bills from the money she made here. And now Marcus, who'd borrowed $3,000 from her last year that he'd never repaid, was using her honest work as a punchline. "Baby, let's go," his girlfriend said, loud enough for Nessa to hear. "This place is so depressing. All these people going nowhere." They stood to leave, Marcus dropping a single dollar on the table, a deliberate insult. As they passed, he leaned close enough that Nessa could smell his expensive cologne. "You could have been something, Nessa. Instead, you're just this, a waitress, forever." The diner went quiet. Everyone had heard. Nessa felt their eyes, pity, curiosity, secondhand embarrassment. Her co-worker, Destiny, rushed over with a dustpan, whispering, "Show him, girl, forget him. He ain't worth it." But the damage was done. Nessa finished her shift in a fog of humiliation, each customer a reminder that Marcus was right. She was just a waitress, nothing special, going nowhere. She clocked out at 2 p.m. exhausted and emotionally shredded. Outside Ruby's Diner, the Los Angeles sun was merciless, beating down on the cracked sidewalk of Crenshaw Boulevard. Nessa pulled out her phone to call her mom, needing to hear a voice that loved her, and walked straight into someone's chest. A chest that felt like walking into a wall of muscle wrapped in expensive fabric. "I'm so sorry," she said automatically, looking up. And up. The man was tall, at least 6'2", with sharp Korean features that could have been carved from stone. Black hair swept back from a face that was almost too beautiful, saved from prettiness by a thin scar cutting through his left eyebrow and the edge of a tattoo creeping up his neck from beneath his collar. His suit probably cost more than Nessa made in 6 months. Everything about him screamed wealth and danger in equal measure. "You're crying," he said. His English was perfect, barely accented, but something in the cadence marked him as Korean. He reached into his jacket and Nessa tensed. This was LA, you never knew. But he just pulled out a handkerchief. Actual cloth, monogrammed with initials she couldn't quite read. He offered it to her. "I'm fine," Nessa lied, wiping her face with the back of her hand. "Really, just a bad day." "The man who threw the cup at you." It wasn't a question. Nessa's eyes widened. "You saw that?" "I was having lunch across the street. I saw everything." His dark eyes held hers, and Nessa felt pinned by the intensity of his gaze. He's a fool and a coward. Men who disrespect women in public are always cowards. Something about his certainty, the matter-of-fact way he said it, made Nessa's throat tight with emotion. "You don't even know me." Maybe he's right. Maybe I am just... Don't. The single word cut through her self-pity like a knife. Don't let his shame become yours. You work an honest job. That's more than most people in this city can say. He glanced at Ruby's Diner, then back to her. "How long have you worked there?" 3 years? Why?" "Because in those 3 years, you've probably served thousands of people, made their days a little better. That's not nothing." He paused, then did something unexpected. He bowed slightly, a formal, respectful gesture that seemed wildly out of place on a Crenshaw sidewalk. "My name is Yoon Jae-sung, and I'd like to offer you a job." Nessa blinked. "What?" I own several businesses, restaurants, clubs, other ventures. I'm always looking for people with real service experience, people who understand hospitality from the ground up. He pulled out a business card, heavy stock, embossed lettering. Come to this address tomorrow at 10 a.m. Interview for a management position. The salary starts at $85,000 a year. Nessa stared at the card like it might bite her. $85,000 was more than double what she made now. It was enough to get her mom into a better care facility, enough to move out of her studio apartment, enough to prove Marcus wrong. I, I don't understand. You don't know anything about me. I know you didn't flinch when that cup came at your head. I know you cleaned up the mess with dignity instead of causing a scene. I know you're still wearing a smile for our customers even after being humiliated. His expression softened slightly. That's leadership, Miss Brooks, Nessa Brooks. Miss Brooks, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Don't let pride or fear keep you from showing up. He nodded once more, then walked away, moving with a predatory grace that made people unconsciously step out of his path. Nessa watched him go, card clutched in her shaking hand, and wondered if she'd just imagined the entire encounter. That night, Nessa sat in her tiny studio apartment in Inglewood, staring at Yoon Jae-sung's business card. She'd Googled him, of course. The search results were confusing. Yoon Jae-sung appeared in society pages, charity galas, business magazines. He owned the Lotus Restaurant Group, 5 high-end establishments across LA. He had investments in real estate, tech startups, import-export businesses. He was 28, unmarried, and absurdly wealthy. But there were gaps in the information. Whispers on Korean community forums about Yoon's real business. Mentions of the Bakpa, the White Faction, one of LA's most powerful Korean organized crime groups. Nothing concrete, nothing provable, just smoke that suggested fire. Nessa's best friend since high school, Rochelle, had come over after Nessa's panicked phone call. Now she sat on Nessa's second-hand couch, braids wrapped in a silk scarf, giving Nessa the look. The girl you know better look. Nessa, baby, you cannot be seriously considering this. Rochelle gestured at the laptop screen. This man is probably a gangster. You go to that interview, you might end up on the news. Or worse, not on the news, if you know what I mean. Or he's exactly what he seems, a successful businessman who saw something in me that Marcus never did. Nessa closed the laptop. Ro, I made $32,000 last year, before taxes. My mom's care facility wants to move her to the state home because I can't afford the payments. I'm 26 years old and I have 400 in savings. What exactly do I have to lose? Your life, your freedom. Girl, didn't you watch any crime shows? But Rochelle's voice softened. I get it. I do. Marcus was wrong about you. You're smart. You're capable. You deserve better. But there are other choices. Legal jobs, safe jobs. Safe jobs that pay $85,000 to someone with no degree and waitress experience? Nessa shook her head. This is my one chance to change everything, to prove I'm more than just this. She gestured around the apartment, 400 square feet of cramped space with water-stained ceiling and a radiator that only worked half the time. Rochelle was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. Fine, but I'm coming with you tomorrow, waiting outside. If you're not out in an hour, I'm calling the police. Deal. And Nessa, if this man is what you think he is, if he really is offering you a legitimate opportunity, don't fuck it up by falling for him. Rich men don't marry waitresses. They use them, then move on. I'm not looking for a husband, Ro. I'm looking for a paycheck. But as Nessa lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, she couldn't stop thinking about Yoon Jae-sung. The way he looked at her, not with pity, but with something like recognition. The formal bow that suggested old-world respect. The absolute certainty in his voice when he'd called Marcus a coward. She'd been with Marcus for 3 years, and he'd never once defended her like that. And this stranger had done it after watching her for 5 minutes. The address on the business card led to a building in downtown LA that Nessa had walked past 100 times without really seeing. Sleek glass and steel, the kind of place where the doorman wore a better suit than most people owned. Rochelle dropped her off at 9:45, still muttering about white slavery and organ harvesting. 1 hour, Rochelle said firmly. I'm setting a timer. The lobby was all marble and minimalist art. The receptionist, a poised Korean woman in her 40s, smiled when Nessa gave her name. Miss Brooks, Mr. Yoon is expecting you, 10th floor, private elevator on your left. The private elevator required a key card, which the receptionist provided. As the doors closed, Nessa caught her reflection in the polished brass. She'd worn her best outfit, a navy dress that she'd bought for job interviews 2 years ago, simple black heels, her natural hair in a sleek bun, professional, forgettable, safe. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse office that made Nessa's breath catch. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked downtown LA. Modern furniture mixed with traditional Korean pieces, a beautiful contrast of old and new. And sitting behind a massive desk, somehow even more intimidating in broad daylight, was Yoon Jae-sung. He stood when she entered, and Nessa noticed details she'd missed yesterday. The tattoo on his neck was actually a dragon, scales rendered in intricate detail, head disappearing beneath his collar. His suit today was charcoal gray, tailored so precisely it looked painted on, and his eyes, those dark, intense eyes, tracked her movement across the room with predatory focus. Miss Brooks, thank you for coming. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. Please sit. Would you like coffee, tea, water? Water is fine. Nessa's voice came out steadier than she felt. As she sat, a young man appeared with a bottle of Perrier and a glass, then vanished as silently as he'd come. I'll be direct, Jae-sung said, settling back into his chair. I don't actually need a restaurant manager. All my establishments are fully staffed with people I trust. Nessa's heart sank. Of course. It had been too good to be true. She started to stand, but Jae-sung held up a hand. Please, let me finish. I don't need a restaurant manager. But I do need someone for a different role, one that pays considerably more than $85,000. What kind of role? Nessa asked carefully. I need a wife. The words hung in the air between them. Nessa was certain she'd misheard. I'm sorry, what? A wife, temporary, contracted, for 1 year. Jae-sung opened a folder on his desk, sliding it across to her. There's a business deal I need to close. The man I'm negotiating with is very traditional, very conservative. He won't do business with unmarried men, believes they're not stable, not trustworthy. I need to be married by the end of this month. The contract would run for 1 year, at which point we'd divorce quietly. Nessa stared at him. You want to pay me to marry you? Yes, $100,000 for the year, half up front, half when we divorce. Plus living expenses, wardrobe, anything you need. You'd live in my home, attend events with me, play the role of devoted wife in public. In private, we'd maintain separate lives. His expression was completely serious. I know it sounds insane, but Miss Brooks, you said yourself yesterday that you need to change your situation. This is how you do it. This is illegal. Marriage fraud is only fraud if it's for immigration purposes. This is a private arrangement between two consenting adults, completely legal if unconventional. He leaned forward. And before you ask, yes, there is risk involved. My business dealings are complicated. You'd be exposed to a world that's not always safe or legal, but you'd also be protected. No one would dare touch Yoon Jae-sung's wife. Nessa's mind was racing. This was insane, absolutely insane. Marrying a stranger, a possibly criminal stranger, for money. It was the plot of a bad romance novel. And yet, $500,000. That was generational wealth. That was her mother in the best care facility in California. That was a college degree, a house, a future. That was proof that Marcus had been wrong about everything. Why me, she asked. You could hire an actress, a model, someone more suitable for your world. Because actresses and models would want more than money. They'd want the lifestyle to continue, the status, the connection. They'd make the divorce complicated. His eyes held hers. But you, Miss Brooks, you have tangible goals. You want to help your mother. You want education. You want security. Those are things I can provide, and then you can walk away. No emotional attachment. No complications. You don't know that I won't get attached. Won't you? He tilted his head slightly, studying her. You just ended a 3-year relationship. Your ex-boyfriend humiliated you publicly. I'm guessing you're not eager to jump back into genuine emotional entanglement. This would be business. Clean, clear, transactional. He was right. The thought of actually falling for someone after Marcus felt impossible. Her heart was locked down, safe behind walls she'd built yesterday morning. A business marriage? That she could do. No vulnerability, no risk of being hurt, just a job that paid well and ended cleanly. What happens if I say no? Nessa asked. I find someone else, and you go back to Ruby's diner. No harm, no foul. He stood, moving to the window, hands clasped behind his back. But Miss Brooks, Nessa, can I tell you what I see when I look at you? I see a woman who's been told she's not enough her entire life, not pretty enough, not educated enough, not ambitious enough. I see someone who works 3 times as hard as everyone around her and gets half the credit. And I see someone who deserves one moment where the universe pays her back for all that unfairness. That's quite a speech. It's the truth. He turned back to face her. I need this marriage for business. But I also want to give you something real, a chance to reset your life, to start over with resources and opportunities you'd never have otherwise. Take the weekend to think about it. If you agree, we'll sign contracts Monday and marry by Friday. Friday, as in 6 days from now? The deal closes in 3 weeks. I need to be married before then. He crossed back to his desk, pulling out another card. This is my personal number. Call me with questions, concerns, anything. But Nessa, understand that if you agree, there's no halfway. You're either in completely or you're out. I need someone I can trust, absolutely. Nessa took the card, her hand brushing his. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through her, and from the way his eyes flickered, he felt it too. I'll think about it, she managed. That's all I ask. He walked her to the elevator, and as the doors opened, he said quietly, For what it's worth, I think you're going to say yes, because you're braver than you know, and you're tired of playing small. Rochelle was furious. He wants to marry you? Girl, that's not a job offer. That's a Lifetime movie about to go wrong. They were in Rochelle's apartment in Baldwin Hills, Nessa pacing while Rochelle gesticulated wildly from the couch. It's a business arrangement, a contract. It's marriage to a man you met yesterday who is definitely in the mob or the Mafia or whatever Koreans call it. He's offering me $500,000. Rochelle went quiet, then $500,000? $500,000 for 1 year. Ro, that's enough to take care of my mom forever. Enough to go back to school. Enough to never worry about rent or bills or any of it again. And all you have to do is marry a gorgeous, probably criminal, definitely dangerous man and pretend to be in love with him for a year. Rochelle's voice dripped with skepticism. Nessa, honey, you realize that's harder than it sounds, right? You're going to be living with him, attending events with him, playing housewife, and he's fine as hell. Did you see those cheekbones, that body, that tattoo? I noticed, Nessa admitted. Exactly. You're going to catch feelings, and then what? He divorces you after a year like he said, and you're right back where you started, except now you're heartbroken and you sold a year of your life. I'm not going to catch feelings. Marcus cured me of that. But even as Nessa said it, she wasn't entirely sure it was true. There had been something about Jae-sung. The way he looked at her, the respect in his voice, the certainty that she was worth more than her circumstances suggested. No one had ever looked at her like that before. What does your mom think? Rochelle asked. I haven't told her. How do I explain this? Nessa slumped onto the couch next to her friend. Mom, I'm marrying a rich Korean man I just met so I can afford your medical care. Oh, and he might be a crime lord. Surprise. Rochelle laughed despite herself. Okay, when you put it that way, but seriously, Ness, what does your gut tell you? Forget the money for a second. When you think about saying yes, what do you feel? Nessa closed her eyes, searching for the truth. Fear, yes. Uncertainty, absolutely. But underneath that, excitement. The thrill of possibility. The intoxicating idea that her life could be completely different by next week. That she could walk into Ruby's diner and quit. Could call Marcus and tell him she was marrying someone who saw her value. Could prove to everyone who'd ever doubted her that she was more than they imagined. I feel alive, Nessa admitted. For the first time in years, I feel like something exciting might actually happen to me. Then do it. Rochelle grabbed her hands. But promise me something. Promise you will protect your heart. This man might be offering you money and security, but don't give him more than that. Don't give him you because men like that, they take everything and give nothing back. I promise, Nessa said, and she meant it. She would marry Yoon Jae-sung, play the perfect wife, collect her money, and walk away. Clean, simple, no emotional complications. She called him that night. I'll do it, she said when he answered. I'll marry you. There was a pause. Then, you won't regret this, Nessa. I promise you that. And something about the warmth in his voice, the genuine pleasure, made her wonder if she'd just made the best decision of her life or the worst mistake imaginable. Monday morning, Nessa signed more paperwork than she'd ever seen in her life. Prenuptial agreements, confidentiality clauses, contingency plans for every possible scenario. Jae-sung's lawyer was a sharp-eyed Korean woman named Vivian Park, who explained everything in exhaustive detail. This protects both of you, Vivian said. The marriage lasts exactly 1 year from Friday. During that time, you'll receive a monthly living allowance of $10,000 plus $250,000 up front. The remaining $250,000 comes when you sign the divorce papers. Any violation of the confidentiality clause results in immediate termination and forfeiture of the final payment. And what counts as a violation? Nessa asked. Telling anyone the marriage is fake, speaking to press about Mr. Yoon's business dealings, betraying his trust in any way. Vivian's expression softened slightly. Miss Brooks, I've worked with Jae-sung for 5 years. He's demanding but fair. If you keep your end of the agreement, he'll keep his. I can promise you that. After the paperwork, Jae-sung took Nessa shopping. And by shopping, he meant descending on Rodeo Drive with a black credit card and instructions to buy everything you'll need as my wife. Personal shoppers appeared. Stylists materialized. Nessa found herself trying on designer dresses that cost more than her car, shoes that were literal works of art, jewelry that required security guards just to look at. This is too much, Nessa protested as an associate wrapped a $4,000 Gucci bag. I don't need all this. You do, Jae-sung said firmly. My wife doesn't wear off-the-rack clothes or carry last season's purse. The people will be around. They notice everything. If you look out of place, they'll question the marriage. This isn't about vanity, Nessa. It's about selling the illusion. But as Nessa watched herself in the mirror of a Dior boutique, wearing a silk dress that hugged her curves perfectly, her natural hair styled in elegant twists, she realized this wasn't just about the illusion. For the first time in her life, she felt beautiful. Not pretty for a waitress or you clean up nice beautiful. Actually, genuinely, powerful woman who belongs in these spaces. Beautiful. What do you think? Jae-sung appeared behind her in the mirror, close enough that she could feel his body heat. His eyes met hers in the reflection. I think I look like someone else, Nessa said quietly. No. His hand came up to rest lightly on her shoulder, the tut burning through the silk. You look like yourself, just finely dressed appropriately for who you actually are. The wedding was Friday at 2 p.m. in a small ceremony room at LA City Hall. Nessa had expected something perfunctory, sign papers, exchange rings, done. Instead, Jae-sung had arranged for flowers, a photographer, even a traditional Korean officiant who would conduct a brief pied-bake ceremony afterward. I thought we were keeping this simple, Nessa said the night before, standing in the penthouse that would become her home tomorrow. Jae-sung had given her a tour, 5 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, a chef's kitchen she'd never use, in a master suite that was larger than her entire studio apartment. Simple, yes, but not disrespectful. Jae-sung poured them both wine, expensive stuff that probably cost more than her monthly rent. In Korean culture, marriage is sacred. Even a business arrangement deserves proper acknowledgement. My father would have expected nothing less. Your father, Nessa trailed off. She knew almost nothing about Jae-sung's family, his background, the life that had led him to this moment. Died 3 years ago. Heart attack. Jae-sung's expression went carefully blank. He built everything I have now, came to America with nothing, created an empire, and then worked himself to death maintaining it. I'm sorry, Bassang. Don't be. He got what he wanted, power, respect, legacy. I'm just continuing his work. But something in Jae-sung's voice suggested that continuation wasn't entirely voluntary. Your turn. Tell me about your family. Mom, dad who left when I was 6, little brother in college on the East Coast. Nessa swirled her wine. Mom has MS. She's in a care facility now because I can't manage her needs and work full time. It's been getting worse the last few years. And your brother doesn't help? He's 20 and trying to build his own life. I won't put that burden on him. Nessa met Jae-sung's eyes. That's why I'm doing this. Not for fancy clothes or penthouse apartments, for her. So she can have the care she deserves. Something shifted in Jae-sung's expression. Respect maybe, or understanding. My father used to say that family is the only thing that matters. Everything else is just noise. He raised his glass. To family, then, and to the lies we tell to protect them. They drank, and Nessa wondered what lies Jae-sung was telling. What secrets lurked behind those dark eyes? What business dealings required him to be married by month's end? But she didn't ask. This was a transaction, not a relationship. She didn't need to know his secrets, and he didn't need to know hers. Friday morning, Nessa woke up in her studio apartment for the last time. By tonight, she'd be sleeping in the penthouse. By afternoon, she'd be married. The reality of it hit her like a wave. She was actually doing this. Marrying a man she barely knew. Becoming someone's wife for money. It was insane. Rochelle arrived at 11 to help her get ready. You're absolutely sure about this? Rochelle asked for the 100th time, carefully applying Nessa's makeup. Too late to back out now. It's never too late. We can call him right now, tell him you changed your mind, and you go back to your life. My life where I'm broke and Marcus mocks me and my mom is in a state facility? Nessa shook her head. No, this is happening. The dress Jae-sung had chosen was simple but stunning. Ivory silk that fell to her ankles, with a subtle train and delicate beading at the waist. Not a traditional wedding gown, but elegant enough to feel special. Nessa looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked like she belonged in Jae-sung's world, like she could be the wife of a powerful man. The car that picked them up was absurd, a white Bentley with a driver in an actual chauffeur's uniform. Rochelle whistled low. Girl, even if this marriage is fake, enjoy the ride. Literally. At City Hall, Jae-sung was waiting on the steps. And oh God, the man looked illegal. He wore a black tuxedo tailored so precisely it looked painted on, his hair swept back, that dragon tattoo just visible above his collar. When he saw Nessa, something flickered across his face. Surprise, appreciation, something deeper she couldn't quite name. You're beautiful, he said simply. And the way he said it, not like a compliment, but like a fact he was stating, made Nessa's breath catch. You don't look so bad yourself. He offered his arm, and Nessa took it, feeling the solid muscle beneath the fabric. They walked into City Hall together, Rochelle trailing behind as a witness, and Nessa had the surreal thought that if she didn't know better, this could be real, could be the start of an actual marriage to a man she loved. The ceremony was brief. The officiant asked the traditional questions. Jae-sung produced rings, white gold bands that probably cost more than Nessa made in a year. And when it came time for vows, he looked directly into her eyes and said, I promise to honor you, protect you, and ensure that this arrangement benefits us both, for as long as our agreement lasts. Nessa's turn. She'd prepared something similar, businesslike, clear. But looking at Jae Sung, at the intensity in his dark eyes, different words came out. I promise to be the partner you need, to stand beside you publicly and respect our private boundaries, to make this work for both of us. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Nessa hadn't thought about this part. Of course there would be a kiss. It was a wedding. But as Jae Sung stepped closer, his hand cupping her cheek with surprising gentleness, she realized she wasn't prepared for the reality of kissing him. His lips met hers softly at first, appropriate for a public ceremony. But then something changed. The kiss deepened slightly, his hand sliding to the nape of her neck, pulling her closer. And Nessa forgot they were in City Hall. Forgot this was fake. Forgot everything except the feel of his mouth on hers and the way her entire body responded. When they broke apart, both breathing slightly harder, Chae-sung's expression was unreadable. Mrs. Yoon, he said quietly. Just that. Her new name. And hearing it in his voice made something in Nessa's chest tighten dangerously. The photographer captured them signing the marriage certificate, Jae-sung's hand on the small of her back, both of them smiling. Anyone looking at the photos would see a couple in love. No one would guess it was all performance. The payback ceremony happened in a private room Jae-sung had reserved. Traditionally, it was when the new bride bowed to her husband's family. But Jae-sung had no family present. Both parents dead, no siblings. Instead, there was just an older Korean man in traditional hanbok, someone Jae-sung introduced as Uncle Chen, who didn't seem to be actually related but was clearly important. Uncle Chen studied Nessa with shrewd eyes, then spoke rapid Korean to Jae-sung. Jae-sung responded in kind, his voice respectful. Finally, Uncle Chen smiled, not warmly but with approval, and nodded. Welcome to the family, Mrs. Yoon. After Uncle Chen left, Nessa asked, what did he say? In Korean? Jae-sung's expression was carefully neutral. He asked if you knew what you were getting into. I told him you did. And what am I getting into? Oh, my world, which is more complicated than I initially explained. He gestured for her to sit on the traditional cushions. Nessa, I've been honest that my business dealings are unorthodox, but you should know specifics before we go any further. You're my wife now, even if it's temporary. That means you need to understand what that actually means. Nessa's heart rate picked up. I'm listening. My family controls significant portions of LA's Korean community. We run legitimate businesses, restaurants, real estate, tech investments. But we also handle things that operate in legal gray areas. Gambling, protection services, import-export with flexible documentation. I don't deal drugs, I don't traffic people, and I don't hurt innocents. But I'm not a legal businessman, Nessa. I'm what Americans call a mob boss. There it was, the confirmation of what she'd suspected but hadn't wanted to acknowledge. And the marriage? What deal requires you to be married? I'm negotiating a partnership with a Chinese shipping magnate, very traditional man. He believes unmarried men lack discipline and focus. He won't do business with me unless I'm settled, respectable, anchored by family. Jae-sung's jaw tightened. It's archaic and ridiculous. But the deal is worth $50 million, so I play by his rules. And after, when we divorce, the deal will be done, the partnership established. He'll be disappointed maybe, but business is business. Jae-sung reached out, taking her hand. Nessa, I need you to understand, as my wife, you're under my protection. No one in this city would dare touch you. But you're also a target. Other organizations might try to use you to get to me. That's why you'll have security. Why you need to be careful. You should have told me all this before the wedding. Would you have said no? Nessa considered lying, then decided truth was simpler. Probably not, but I would have appreciated the honesty. Fair enough, Jae-sung stood, pulling her up with him. Then let me be completely honest now. This marriage is business. The contract is clear. But Nessa, I'm attracted to you. That kiss wasn't entirely for show. And living together, playing husband and wife, keeping up appearances, lines might blur. I need to know you can handle that. Heat flooded Nessa's face. I can handle it. Can you? Because I've seen the way you look at me, and I know how I look at you. We're supposed to convince the world we're in love. That might require intimacy, physical closeness. Can you do that without it becoming complicated? Nessa lifted her chin, refusing to let him see her uncertainty. I'm a professional. I can separate business from personal. Can you? Jae-sung's smile was slow, dangerous. I guess we'll find out. The penthouse felt different moving in as Jae-sung's wife. Nessa had a wing to herself, bedroom, bathroom, walk-in closet that was already filled with the clothes they'd bought. But there were shared spaces too. The kitchen where a private chef prepared meals. The living room where Jae-sung conducted business. The study where he disappeared for hours, door closed, speaking Korean in low, intense tones. The first week was an adjustment. Nessa learned Jae-sung's rhythms. Early riser, always impeccably dressed. 3 espressos before noon. He was polite but distant, treating her like a valued employee. They ate breakfast together, discussing the day's schedule. He asked about her mother's care, already arranged, transferred to the best facility in California. He made sure she had everything she needed, but he kept a careful distance. Until Friday night. Their first public appearance as a married couple was a charity gala in Beverly Hills. Nessa had never been to anything like it. Movie stars, tech billionaires, old money, and new rubbing shoulders in a ballroom that looked like something from a fairy tale. Stay close to me, Jae-sung murmured as they entered, his hand at the small of her back. These people are sharks. They'll smile and ask personal questions, trying to find weakness. Don't give them anything real. He introduced her as my wife Nessa, with a pride in his voice that sounded genuine. And as the night wore on, Nessa watched him work the room with practiced ease. Charming, confident, effortlessly code-switching between Korean and English, between business talk and social pleasantries. This was his world, and he moved through it like a king. How did you two meet? A white woman in diamonds asked, eyes sharp with curiosity. Through work, Jae-sung said smoothly. She was consulting for one of my restaurants. I took one look at her and knew I had to make her mine. How romantic. And so unexpected. The woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. Her meaning was clear. Unexpected that someone like you would marry someone like her. Nessa felt Jae-sung tense beside her. My wife is remarkable, he said, voice going cold. I'm the lucky one, if you'll excuse us. He steered Nessa away, his hand tightening on her waist. I'm sorry about that. Some people still think interracial marriage is scandalous. It's fine, I'm used to it. You shouldn't have to be. He pulled her onto the dance floor as a slow song started. Dance with me. Let's give them something to really talk about. Nessa had never slow danced before, not really. School dances didn't count. But Jae-sung led her with easy confidence, one hand on her waist, the other holding hers. They moved together and Nessa was hyper-aware of every point of contact. His body was hard muscle beneath a tuxedo. He smelled like expensive cologne and something uniquely him. And when she looked up, his dark eyes were on her with that intense focus that made her feel like the only person in the room. You're doing well, he murmured. Natural performer. Learn from working tables. Service is all performance. Is this performance? Right now? His thumb stroked the small of her back, a gesture that felt intimate, possessive. Nessa's breath caught. What else would it be? I don't know. His eyes held hers. But Nessa, when I introduced you as my wife tonight, when I told that woman you were remarkable, that wasn't performance. That was truth. Don't, Nessa whispered. Don't blur the lines. We agreed. I know what we agreed, but I'm starting to think I made an impossible contract. He pulled her closer until their bodies were flush, because every day I learn something new about you. How you take your coffee, the way you hum when you're thinking, how fierce you are about protecting your family. And every day, the idea of letting you go in a year becomes harder to imagine. Jae-sung, stop. But Nessa's body betrayed her, leaning into him even as she spoke. This isn't real. We're playing roles. Are we? Because this feels pretty fucking real to me. His voice was low, dangerous. That kiss at City Hall, was that performance? The way you look at me when you think I'm not watching? Is that fake? It has to be. Nessa pulled back slightly, needing space to think. I'm not doing this again. I'm not falling for someone who has an expiration date stamped on our relationship. Marcus taught me that lesson. Something flashed across Jae Sung's face. Anger. Frustration. I'm not Marcus. That coward who mocked you for honest work, who threw things at you, who borrowed money and never paid it back. Don't compare me to him. You're right. You're not Marcus. Nessa met his eyes steadily. You're worse, because at least Marcus broke my heart through weakness. You're setting me up to break my own heart by design. I know exactly when this ends. I signed a contract promising it ends. And if I let myself feel something real for you, I'll spend a year falling in love just to walk away. I'm not that stupid. The song ended. Jae-sung stared at her for a long moment, jaw clenched. Then he nodded once, sharply. You're right. I apologize. That was inappropriate. His voice went formal, distant. Let's continue circulating. We should speak to the Chinese delegation. And just like that, the moment shattered. They spent the rest of the evening playing perfect spouses, touching, laughing, finishing each other's sentences. But the warmth was gone, replaced by professional precision. And when they finally left at midnight, the car ride home was silent. Nessa threw herself into her new role. Days were spent at the community center Jae Sung had founded in Koreatown, a resource hub for immigrants and working families. He'd asked her to help redesign the job training program, using her experience to create curriculum that actually prepared people for service industry work. Most programs teach skills, Nessa explained to the center's director, a kind Korean woman named Mrs. Song. But they don't teach dignity, how to handle customers who treat you like you're invisible, how to maintain pride when someone throws a cup at your head. That's what people really need. Mrs. Song smiled. Mr. Yoon said you would understand. He was right. She paused. He's different since marrying you. Lighter somehow, less burdened. Guilt twisted in Nessa's stomach because their marriage wasn't real. These people who welcomed her, who treated her like she belonged, who saw her as Jae Sung's wife, they were being lied to, and it bothered her more than she'd expected. At night, she and Jae Sung maintained their careful distance. Separate bedrooms, polite conversation. No more loaded moments or dangerous confessions. It was exactly what they'd agreed to, and it was slowly killing something inside Nessa that she hadn't known existed. 2 weeks into the marriage, everything changed. Nessa was leaving the community center when a car pulled up. Black SUV with tinted windows. Wrong. Everything about it screamed wrong. She started to back toward the building, but men poured out. 4 of them, moving with coordinated precision. Mrs. Yoon, come with us. Now. The one who spoke was Korean, middle-aged with a scar bisecting his face. Don't make a scene. Don't make us hurt any meme inside that building. Nessa's mind raced. Scream, run, fight. But there were families inside the center. Kids. And these men had guns. She could see the bulges under their jackets. What do you want? Not you, your husband. You're just the message. He grabbed her arm, grip bruising. Get in the car. They threw her in the back seat, one man on either side. The SUV peeled out, heading east toward downtown. Nessa's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might explode. This was real. This was the danger Jae Sung had warned about. She was being kidnapped because she'd married him. Please, she said, hating the tremor in her voice. Whatever issue you have with my husband, I can't help you. You're his wife. That makes you leverage. Scarface didn't even look at her. Your husband has been disrupting business, taking territory that doesn't belong to him. We're going to remind him there are consequences. They drove to a warehouse in an industrial area Nessa didn't recognize. Inside, it was freezing and smelled like oil and rust. They zip-tied her hands to a metal chair. Then Scarface pulled out a phone and started recording video. Mr. Yoon, he said in English, then switched to Korean for a long speech Nessa didn't understand, then back to English. You have 2 hours to meet our terms, or your wife dies, slowly. He ended the recording, then sent it. Now we wait. Nessa's mouth was dry with fear, but she forced her voice steady. He won't give you what you want. Our marriage is… She stopped. Was what? Fake? A business arrangement? But saying that meant these men had no reason to keep her alive. Your marriage is what? Scarface leaned close, breath hot on her face. Not real? That's not what it looks like. Man's been turning down business opportunities, restructuring territories, all to keep his wife safe. If you're not real to him, you're a hell of a good actress. The words hit Nessa like a physical blow. Chae-Sung had been changing his business for her, restructuring his operations to minimize risk because she was in his life. That wasn't part of their agreement. That wasn't transactional. Time crawled. The warehouse was silent except for the occasional car passing outside. Nessa's hands were numb from the zip ties. She tried not to think about what die slowly meant. Tried not to imagine Jae-Sung's face when he got that video. 90 minutes in, the warehouse doors exploded inward. Not opened, exploded, metal shrieking as they were blown off hinges. And through the smoke and chaos came Jae-Sung, flanked by at least a dozen men, all armed, all moving with military precision. What happened next was violence so swift and brutal that Nessa barely processed it. Gunfire, shouting in Korean. Scarface reaching for his weapon, and Jae-Sung moving faster than should be possible, disarming him with a move that left the man screaming on the ground, arm bent at an impossible angle. And then Jae-Sung was in front of her, cutting the zip ties with a knife that appeared from nowhere, his hands shaking as he touched her face, her arms checking for injuries. Did they hurt you? His voice was raw, desperate. Nessa, look at me. Did they hurt you? I'm okay. I'm fine. Jae-Sung, He pulled her against him, arms wrapped so tight she could barely breathe. And Nessa felt him shaking. This powerful, controlled man was shaking with fear, or rage, or relief. I'm sorry, he said into her hair. I'm so fucking sorry. This is my fault. I should have had better security. Should have anticipated. Boss, one of Jae-Sung's men approached. What do you want done with them? Jae-Sung pulled back, and Nessa saw his face transform. The fear and vulnerability vanished, replaced by something cold and merciless. Take them to the warehouse in San Pedro. I'll deal with them personally. His voice was ice. And send a message to the Red Dragon Triad. Anyone who touches what's mine pays in blood. No exceptions. No mercy. He turned back to Nessa, and the cold mask cracked slightly. Can you walk? I'm taking you home. I can walk. But when she tried to stand, her legs nearly gave out. Adrenaline crash. Jae-Sung caught her, then simply lifted her into his arms like she weighed nothing, carrying her out of the warehouse into the night. Back at the penthouse, Jae-Sung didn't put her down until they reached the master bedroom, his bedroom. He set her gently on the bed, then knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his. His thumbs traced the raw marks where the zip ties had cut into her wrists. I need you to know something, he said quietly. What happened tonight? That can't happen again. I've made arrangements. New security protocols. You all have a team with you everywhere. I know you value independence, but Nessa, I can't… His voice cracked. I can't lose you. Jae-Sung, we're not real. Remember? This is a contract, an arrangement. But the words felt hollow even as she spoke them. Fuck the contract. He looked up at her, eyes blazing. You think I give a damn about paperwork right now? Nessa, when I got that video, when I saw you tied to that chair, I lost my mind. I called in every favor, mobilized every resource, would have burned this entire city down to get you back. That's not contractual obligation. That's… Don't say it. Nessa pulled her hands away. Please don't say it. Why not? Because it's true? Jae-Sung stood, pacing the room like a caged animal. I'm in love with you, Nessa. I've been falling since the moment I saw you outside that diner, looking so strong despite being broken. And tonight proved it. Because the thought of a world without you in it was unacceptable, unbearable. Tears burned Nessa's eyes. We have 8 months left on our contract. Then I walk away with my money and You find some other woman to marry for your next business deal. That's what we agreed to. Then we change the agreement, tear up the contract, make this real. He crossed back to her, cupping her face in his hands. Nessa, I know this is fast. I know it's insane. But everything about us has been insane from the beginning. Why stop now? Because you're a criminal. The words burst out, harsh and desperate. Because your world is violence and danger and warehouse kidnappings. Because loving you means living in fear that someone will use me against you. Because, her voice broke. Because I'm already halfway in love with you and it terrifies me. Jae-sung went very still. Say that again. Which part? The part where you love me. Nessa closed her eyes. I'm falling for you. God help me. I'm falling for a man who runs the Korean Mafia, who kills people, who lives in a world I don't understand. And tonight proved why that's a terrible idea. I can't be your weakness, Jae-sung. I can't be the thing your enemies use to destroy you. You're not my weakness. He tilted her face up, forcing her to meet his eyes. You're my strength. You make me want to be better than my father was, to build something legitimate, something clean. Before you, I was just going through the motions, maintaining an empire I didn't care about. But now I have a reason to change things. And what happens when you can't change fast enough? When the next rival organization decides I'm an easy target? When he kissed her, not gently, not tentatively, but with desperate hunger. And Nessa kissed him back with all the fear and longing and impossible love she'd been suppressing for weeks. They fell back onto the bed, hands roaming, barriers crumbling. Stay with me tonight, Jae-sung said against her lips, not because of the contract, not because you're scared, but because you want to. This is a terrible idea. Probably. His hand slid up her thigh, and Nessa gasped. But I stopped caring about good ideas the moment I met you. They made love with desperate intensity. Two people who'd been denying themselves finally giving in. And afterward, lying tangled together in the darkness, Nessa felt something inside her shift. This wasn't fake anymore. Hadn't been for a while if she was honest. She'd married Yoon Jae-sung for money. But she was staying for something far more dangerous. Love. The next morning, Nessa woke to find Jae-sung already dressed in a suit, sitting on the edge of the bed watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What is it? She asked, pulling the sheet up. I have to handle something. The people who took you, I need to send a message. His voice was cold, businesslike. I'll be gone most of the day. Security will be with you. What kind of message? But Nessa knew, the kind of message that involved the warehouse in San Pedro, the kind that resulted in bodies, the kind that ensures this never happens again. He leaned down, kissing her forehead. Don't ask me for details. Please. Some things you're better off not knowing. He left, and Nessa spent the day trying not to think about what he was doing, trying not to imagine the violence, the blood, the cold efficiency with which he dismantled threats. This was the reality of loving Yoon Jae-sung. He wasn't just a businessman in a nice suit. He was a killer when necessary, a man capable of terrible things. By evening, she'd made a decision. When Jae-sung returned, suit still immaculate, Ayun Desrangin, no visible signs of whatever he'd done, Nessa was waiting in the living room. We need to talk. He poured himself a drink, whiskey neat, and downed it in one swallow. If you're leaving, just say so. I'll honor the contract, pay you everything we agreed on. But Nessa, please don't make me watch you pack. I'm not leaving. She stood, crossing to him. But we need new terms, new rules. Hope flickered across his face. What kind of rules? Rule 1, no more secrets about your business. I don't need every detail, but I need to know when I'm in danger. Rule 2, you start transitioning to legitimate operations. Actual transition, not just promises. Rule 3, she took a breath. Rule 3, this marriage becomes real. No expiration date, no divorce clause. If we're doing this, we're doing it for real. Jae-sung set down his glass very carefully. You're serious. I'm terrified, but yes. Nessa moved closer until they were almost touching. I love you, and I think you love me. So let's stop pretending this is just business and build something actual, something that lasts. Nessa Brooks. He pulled her against him, and she could feel his heart pounding. Are you sure? Because if we do this, if we make this real, I'm never letting you go. You'll be stuck with me, with my world, with all the complications that come with it. I'm sure, but Jae-sung, I need you to promise me something. Promise that you're trying to get out, that this isn't forever. I promise. He rested his forehead against hers. My father built an empire through violence, and I'm going to transform it into something legitimate. For you, for the life we're going to build. It might take years, but I'll do it. Then I'm in, all in. She kissed him softly. No more contracts, no more pretending. Just us figuring it out as we go. Just us, he agreed, and kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. Epilogue. 1 year later. Nessa stood in the nursery of their new house, not the downtown penthouse, but an actual home in Hancock Park, with a yard and neighbors and normalcy. Well, as much normalcy as possible when your husband was transitioning from crime boss to legitimate businessman. The past year had been a journey. Jae-sung had kept his promise, systematically converting operations, investing in legal ventures, distancing himself from the darker aspects of his family's legacy. It hadn't been easy. Some of his father's old associates had resisted. There had been threats, confrontations, tense negotiations. But slowly, steadily, Yoon Jae-sung was becoming the man he'd always wanted to be. And Nessa had been beside him through all of it. She'd finished her degree online, opened her own consulting firm, helping restaurants improve their service culture. She'd become a fixture in the Korean community, respected for her work at the center and her unwavering support of her husband's transformation. Still can't believe we're doing this, Rochelle said from the doorway, watching Nessa arrange tiny onesies. You know, when you called me a year ago talking about fake marrying a mobster, I thought you'd lost your mind. I did lose my mind, Nessa admitted. Best decision I ever made. And now you're having his baby. Girl, this is not how I saw your life going. But Rochelle was smiling. Though I gotta admit, you look happy. Actually happy, not just surviving. I am happy. Nessa touched her growing belly. I'm married to a man who sees me, really sees me, who thinks my past as a waitress makes me stronger, not lesser. Who's building a better world because I asked him to. How did I get this lucky? By being brave enough to take a chance on something impossible. Jae-sung appeared in the doorway, still in his suit from work. He'd been at a city council meeting. He was lobbying for better small business protections now, using his influence for actual good. Rochelle tactfully excused herself. Jae-sung crossed to Nessa, hands settling on her waist, pulling her back against him. How are my two favorite people? Your daughter is using my bladder as a soccer ball. Other than that, perfect. He turned her around, eyes soft with love. I never thought I'd have this. A real family, a real marriage. A future that didn't involve violence and fear. And I never thought I'd fall in love with a man who asked me to fake marry him the day after I got dumped. Nessa laughed. We're both ridiculous. Ridiculously lucky. He kissed her, soft and sweet. Thank you for saving me, Nessa. For seeing past who I was to who I could become. Thank you for seeing me. For looking at a waitress in a diner and seeing someone worth knowing. They stood together in the nursery of their daughter's room, two people from impossible worlds who'd built a bridge between them. The fake marriage that became real. The business arrangement that became love. The mobster and the waitress who proved that sometimes the most unlikely beginnings lead to the most beautiful endings. And somewhere in LA, at Ruby's Diner, a new waitress was serving coffee to customers who barely saw her. Maybe one day, Nessa thought, she'd find her own impossible love story, her own moment of transformation. Because Nessa Brooks had learned the most important lesson of all. You're never just what the world says you are. Sometimes you're everything you never imagined you could be. All it takes is someone who sees you clearly and loves you anyway.